So the third myth that I hear people talk about, particularly when I start advising with them, and I know I've read so much about this, and I have actually done a couple of videos, and I've written a blog post about this, which are also linked below. There's so many links below for this video. But one of the third myth that people talk about is they think that study abroad classes are easier. And so I go through this in that other video that I did where I actually say that that is a myth that you need to forget. I talk about how, much harder I found a lot of my study abroad classes, and how it definitely is one of those situations where you have to show up and you really have to give it your all, because you have certain things stacked against you already. So whether that is a language barrier, whether it is, like I was, getting used to a different grading scale, whether it is, you are still adjusting to just being in a different environment. There are all these different things that are sort of going to be additional barriers for you. Potentially, it may not be. But I think that just this idea that, I don't know where people got this myth from, that study abroad classes are easier, and, like, I'm just going to go and spend 6 months in Germany, and I'm just going to have a good time, and every day just going to be like walking through the square and having fun and partying at night and drinking lager and all this stuff. Like, I mean, you may be doing that, like, that is awesome, but you still have to show up to study. As I always say, you're probably tired of hearing it, but in study abroad, there are two words: study and abroad. And unfortunately, a lot of times people only hear the abroad part. They do not hear study. And then, you get caught up and you start failing. And you can't do that because, again, a lot of times, depending on where you're coming from, your study abroad program may be connected to electives, or you may be taking it as actual classes, that it may be towards, like, hardcore credit that you need to graduate. So you definitely don't want to start slacking off just because you think that, you're in a new place and, it's just fun all the time. Like, there is so much value and fun and excitement and, great relationships and great friendships that can be made during study abroad, but you still have to actually study. So when you're thinking that the classes are easier, I am sorry to break it to you. They are not. In a lot of ways, they can be harder. And so you definitely just want to stay on your square, stay on your A game, and be prepared to take that on. And so that is a third myth I want you to forget. When you go to study abroad, you're going to need to study, and sometimes you may need to study more than you would at home. So for the final myth, at least for this video, there are so many other myths I could talk about. But for the final myth for this video, I would definitely say that this is one that I hear all the time as well, is there is no value in me studying abroad. I feel like, it's just going to be seen as this vacation that I took, and it's not going to be something that's going to be worth it for me. So I would like to go ahead and bust that myth as well. It sort of relates to what I talked about in number 3. And the point of, if you are very diligent and you are focused on your studies, in addition to having fun, obviously, but if you do take your studies seriously, that study abroad is going to give you an entirely, like, additional pathway of opportunities, of connections, of friendships. I mean, I can sit here for the next 25, 35, 45 minutes and talk about just all of the connections and friendships and partnerships and all these different things that I made when I studied abroad. A lot of them, some of them were situational, some of them were long term, and some of them were just kind of based on, maybe, I was working at this place and people helped me with a project or whatever it was. But all of it has really stuck with me. And I mean, for me personally, that is what inspired me to, return home and start counseling and advising students for study abroad. It is what led me to starting my blog, Anchor Me Abroad. It's also what led me to, opening the Live, Study, Learn Abroad Association, because I understand the power of study abroad, and that I don't think there are many people out there who are serious people, particularly if you're going for a job interview or something like that, where they're just thinking that, you spent a semester abroad somewhere just kind of hanging out and chilling. Like, people know that's not what most people do. I mean, I look at it a lot, and I don't really want to go down this road because I don't know as much about it, but I do know this much, is that, particularly like, let's say here in the States, where people look at like sororities and fraternities, I would say, I mean, I was not a part of Greek life. That wasn't a part of my college career. A lot of people in my family were, but it's, even though it gets a bad reputation, sometimes for good reason. Just like, for example, a lot of study abroad students, in certain places, people hate to see them coming because, they just, it doesn't always have the best reputation, but that's not all that they do. So study abroad students are not just people who are just out partying all the time, just like, sororities and fraternity people that are a part of that. That's not all that they are. I mean, that's a stereotype. And so, I bring that up to kind of parallel to say that, there are so many great things that people in sororities and fraternities actually do for the community to give back. It also gives people a sense of community themselves. I know so many people that, they said they've met their best friends as part of, these organizations. And so I truly believe that, despite all the stereotypes, which are sometimes real, of, the partying and the drinking and all of the debauchery, I'll leave that alone to say that, those do have value for some people, and that it's not just about those negative things, just as study abroad is not just about sort of going to a foreign land somewhere and, you're sitting on the beach all the time. You know what I'm about to say next, drinking Mai Tais. I don't even like Mai Tais, but it just always comes to my mind of, people just think you're at a luau somewhere and you're just drinking Mai Tais and you're just hanging out for 6 months. Like, that is not realistic. Most of the time, people are going to want to hear about your study abroad experience if you're doing an interview, or if you're looking for a job, or if you're looking for a new opportunity, even if you're volunteering. Like, people want to hear about that. And if you can use like the positive parts of what you've done, show that maybe you did take on a volunteer opportunity while you were abroad, or maybe you did a mission trip, or maybe you just had some great opportunities to connect with some instructors while you were there and you really learned. Let's say you dove deeply into a new language, or for you, like, you felt that it was really important for you to be able to, build up your network, whatever it was that was, sort of working for you while you were abroad. If you're able to really be able to stress that, that's only going to help you. And that's not going to be a negative reflection on you. I think that anyone that would sort of look at that as, oh, you just were, bobbing off somewhere for 6 months or 4 months or whatever it was, like, that's on them. Like, that is not realistic. And that is definitely a myth that, people who study abroad, they're just looking for some easy way out, or they're just looking for time off. Like, it is not time off. You, as I was saying before, you often work harder than you would have if you were on campus, in your full-time regular program. And so you don't need to feel the need to necessarily defend yourself against that, but just know that that is a myth. And anyone who is truly worth their weight, and worth their salt, and worth, giving you an opportunity or actually talking to, will understand that that is not true. All right. And so I hope that this video was helpful for you. Now, there are so many other myths that I could get involved in, to kind of go through, but I just wanted to give you 4 that I definitely know for sure. If you have heard any other study abroad myths that you are particularly concerned about, leave a comment below, because we definitely need to continue sort of busting through these. Now, some of them might be true, but anytime that I can help dispel any myths about study abroad or semester way programs in particularly, I am all about that, because I know there's so much out there that you sort of hear, and it often leads students down a dark path of not knowing how to choose a program, or where they choose, or if they should even choose, or if they should even do it. So definitely leave a comment below if you have a common myth that you've heard that you want to hear more about. I would love to address it. Otherwise, I hope that you have liked this video. I hope that you will share this video. As I always say, I know that if you are a study abroad student, a future study abroad student, and you are looking to do it, you probably have other friends that are interested in doing it too, and they should see this video as well. And I hope that you've also subscribed. I put out videos every Friday, most Fridays, and I hope to see you in the next one.